Hey everybody, it's Charlie from Daily Motor. And when Hyundai came out with the newest generation of Tucson back in 2021, it marked a huge step up for the compact crossover and put it right there within striking distance of the Toyota RAV4, the Honda CR-V, and the Ford Escape. Now, for 2025, they've made meaningful improvements to the car, and in my informed opinion, I believe this is the best compact crossover on the market and one of the best cars that you can possibly buy here in the end of 2024, start of 2025. I've been spending the last week with this hybrid limited model. You can also get it in gasoline, just standard. I would not recommend it. You'll only save a little bit of money, and the hybrid in general is nicer to drive. It's more powerful, it's quieter, and if you do a lot of city driving, you'll probably see that money made back up in your fuel savings. You can also get cheaper models. The SEL is usually the best place to be for Hyundais in terms of a value play. But with the limited model, they're going all out and giving you essentially every feature you could possibly want in the compact crossover class. There are only just a few key features that I'd like to see for them going all out in the future, but by no means do I think they're deal breakers, and I don't recommend them for somebody looking to make a smart buy in the compact crossover segment. So over the last week, I've collected my pros and cons with the Hyundai Tucson, and I have to tell you right off the bat, any of the cons, there's really only one that's an actual con of the car. Everything else is simply an observation on something they could improve upon to make the car just that much better for previous or future model years. But a little bit of a spoiler alert, I think this is one of the best cars you can buy. It's really that good. And even down to the littlest sort of nitpick type of things that Chris Brower and I like to kind of joke about with cars or kind of complain in jest, the Tucson has remedied them. It's really, really remarkable. So let's start off with the cons. And the first and only truly legitimate one that I've been able to come up with is something that's been bothering me with Hyundai, a lot of Hyundai and Genesis vehicles over the last few years, and it's the seating position. There's something about the seat, and I don't know if it looks like we got an amplifier under there or something like that, which, side note, I guess if you were to spill a lot of water in there, it's probably not a great place to have that. But there's something about newer Hyundai vehicles, this seat doesn't go low enough. I don't quite understand why. I'm only 5'10", pretty average sized inseam and torso, and I still cannot get the seat to go as low as I would like. Now, this isn't going to be a very useful way to show you, I suppose, but there's only about this much space between my head and the ceiling. So if you're a taller individual, probably 6'2" or above, I don't think you're going to comfortably fit in the Tucson. And I drive so many different vehicles, and I like to have a fairly low seating position. There's something about this car, I can't quite get the seat low enough, and I don't remember that from the previous Tucson. I just drove the 2024 Tucson. The next few cons are just simply things that are either observational or stuff I think they could improve upon for future years. First off is the distance from the driver's seating position to the screen. They've got this nice unbroken piece of glass here with a slight curve to it. It looks good. I know it saves them money to just be able to do one nice smooth piece of unbroken glass here. However, it results in a center touch screen that's significantly far away. If I'm driving here in a comfortable driving position and I need to reach forward and interact with anything here in the car, it requires me leaning way forward away from my seat and pressing. Fortunately, they do have this nice little ledge so you can sort of rest a finger and then touch around. That's very useful when the car is moving. It's very frustrating when a touchscreen doesn't have any sort of place to rest your finger and then make inputs, but it is a little far away, and I've noticed that with a lot of the new Hyundai vehicles as well. It's not necessarily easy to touch the screen. For the next con, this is again something that I understand at this price point why we don't have it, and you'll have to please excuse the bird poop. I just noticed that when we came out to do filming here. But you don't have proxy key for the rear door, which means if you have the car off and you've locked it and you're coming in the morning, you've got either a child's car seat or a backpack or something like that, you want to put it in the rear, door's locked. You got to touch the front door first, unlock it, open. Super, super subtle, but again, if they want to add something to the limited trim, 2025, 6 or 7, that's something they could add. And the next two features that again, I wouldn't want to see in an SEL or an SEL convenience or anything, but I could stand to see in a limited model, just in order for them to keep pushing the envelope even more with the semi-luxury aspects, are dimming outside mirrors and a camera rear view mirror. And it is entirely possible for vehicles in this price point to have camera rear view mirrors. I mean, my wife's Chevy Bolt EUV has it. That car costs quite a bit less MSRP. The outside rear dimming mirrors, it's not, again, something I would expect at this price point, but if they're using the limited trim to kind of push out all the stops, then why not? You can add those two things, it'd be nice. My next con is something that actually came last minute to me here when driving the car home after the review, but the adaptive cruise control is too lazy and the blind spot monitoring is too sensitive. So here's what I mean. So we're following this truck right now. I'll set my adaptive cruise control at 70, and I'm like, oh man, get me out from behind this vehicle. It's going so slow. So I'm going to change lanes here, and then it's still going 57, And I know it might have thrown you off a little bit with that Audi right there, but it doesn't start speeding up until it's clearly in the other lane. And the way you would naturally drive is you'd start to accelerate as you changed lanes. So that's a little bit annoying. And then I'll see if I can show you this here in a moment. I might not be able to actually replicate the situation, but oftentimes when I switch lanes, I want to get my blinker on before I actually make the lane change. So oftentimes as you're passing a vehicle and they're over on the right side of you, you're clear of them and you're starting to become clear when you want to start making your lane change to get back over. So you hit the blinker here in the Santa Fe or the Tucson and it beeps at you. I don't need it to tell me that a car is already nearly out of my blind spot. I guess maybe if there were a way to just turn off the audible alert and just have it be visual only, that'd be one thing. But some of the smarter systems on the market, what they do is if you're in actual danger of having a collision, it'll beep at you. But if a car is just moderately in your blind spot, but you're still technically clear of it, it'll go visual only. That's a smarter way to do blind spot monitoring. My last con, and I think this is the quickest I've ever gotten through cons on a vehicle, is that the pricing is surprisingly close to the new Santa Fe. And the Santa Fe offers you quite a bit more space, really not that big of a hit in fuel economy when you get the hybrids. And the Santa Fe is that much nicer of a vehicle when it comes to feature set, driving experience, and I would argue looks. I mean, the Tucson I think looks more handsome, but is also a bit more boring. The Santa Fe really stands out in the styling, and it is just a little bit strange that when you really compare the pricing, you're like, oh wow, I can get into a Santa Fe for really not that much more at all, especially if you're paying monthly. It might be like $15 or $20 more a month, and all of a sudden you've got a car that you could keep for many more years. This one is going to get a little tight if you're a 4-person family or above, especially with younger kids and you got strollers in the back and stuff, whereas the Santa Fe, you get an extra row, you get a ton more storage space, and more usable roof space if that's something you want to use. Okay, getting into the pros, and every one of these pros is going to be a very fleshed out point. The first one is the interior thoughtfulness here in the new Santa Fe. And that encompasses many aspects. Let me turn the screens back on here, you're going to get a few beeps. But look at this steering wheel in front of us. No annoying haptic controls. Real rollers with grip on them for the volume. You can push down the volume button to mute it. You've got a special multifunction button that you can customize to whatever you might want. Customize the car right to your preferences there. Then, you've got a nice thin steering wheel that feels good to hold and it's heated. Wireless device charger right here, easy to grab. It's got NFC pairing, which makes it super quick and simple to pair up your phone. It's grippy, so your phone doesn't slide around. This part is elevated a little bit to show you where the charging coils are, and because of these ridges, it's going to help keep your phone a little bit cooler while you're charging. And then on top of all that, once the phone does start charging, you get a little LED indicator here to show you that the phone is indeed charging and where its charging status is. Then, physical controls here. Symmetrical even. Yes, we've got a dead button, but at least it's symmetrical so it doesn't stand out as much. Huge amounts of storage down here. If you compare this car to something like the Mazda CX-70 and CX-90 that I had recently, it's got more storage in just this cup holder area than the entire front of the Mazda CX-90. And yet in here, you've got cup holders that are large enough to fit a metal 32-inch water bottle, 2 of them there. You got the wireless device charger. We talked about that. All the storage down here. My wife was able to put her little cross satchel, sort of fanny packy sort of bag right there, and it's grippy. You've got door pocket, large center console. You can see I've got a full-size baseball cap in here, hiding down away. Then, something that I don't understand why pretty much all cars in this class don't do, you've got a storage area here. So my wife was able to put her phone and her sunglasses, and it's a little bit grippy. I could stand a little bit extra grip there, but enough space that, again, so much useful storage. And then down here, you can see for the facelift, they moved to better physical controls for the climate. You've still got physical rollers for your heat and cool, for your temperature there. You've got the shifter that was moved up here into the steering column in order to have all this space free. You've got physical adjustments for volume. It's just like they actually spent time in the car and thought, okay, how would I want this to be? Not because it has to, but because we want it to. You've still got physical adjustments for the brightness of your screens. You've got a handle up here for the driver to rest his or her hand. And again, we're talking about super petty stuff. Look at this. Slides all the way and fully covers the windows here in this shade. I mean, I would have to lie about stuff in order to come up with complaints about the interior of this car. It's, aside from the seating position, one of the most perfect interiors that I have been in. It's uncanny. And now that we have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, you don't have to worry about a big cable running through here in the center and screwing up your aesthetic. I mean, hats off to Hyundai's designers and just product planners, everyone. It's such a great interior. And it continues into the back because if you open the door, look at this. If you're putting in a car seat or something like that, trying to get in and out, the door opens almost 90 degrees. You can fold the seats from up here if you wanted. Fold that down, you get a nearly unbroken surface right there. And you can also fold the seats from back here, so if you're loading in something in the back, you don't have to walk around. Very smart. The seat comes back up. It's got significant reclinability right there. And then if I get in, again, I'm not a huge person, but look at all this knee room and headroom I have. Actually, I take it back. Headroom is fairly average, but knee room is fantastic. You've got two USB-C ports back here, air vents, a center flip-down cup holder, which cups are a little small there, but you've got door holders for a little bit larger, and handles and panoramic sunroof and little reading lights. I mean, this is a fantastic place to be back here as well. And then to finish it all off, we come into the back, open up the trunk, which of course powered, and you get a fairly low load surface, not probably the lowest in the class, but definitely low enough, smooth for sliding things in and out. You've got, even in the hybrid, the ability to store things under here or drop the floor even lower, get yourself even more cargo area. These are little removable bins that you can put stuff into. Some power outlets back here. I guess the only thing that I could possibly add is, I guess, maybe some grocery bag hooks, although theoretically you could hook a grocery bag right there. So we've even got a few of those. So most cars these days are competent and are good, but you can almost always find things to improve on them. And I'm really coming up short on even giving Hyundai anything they could improve upon for the interior of this car. It really is that good. My next pro, I'm realizing is a little bit similar to the first one, but I still want to break it out separately. And it's the fact that they made this compact crossover still be family friendly. And what I mean by that is, even if you pick a more basic model Tucson, you're still getting core elements that make this a compact crossover that you could actually comfortably have with two children, because there's enough room back here for two rear-facing car seats. There's enough room in the trunk, and it's easy enough to get in and out of the cargo area that you could have baby things and life things in here. And you've got the air vents. I don't know if every trim has them. I'll put here below if I can find any trims that don't have rear air vents. But this is not one of those compact crossovers like the CX-5, which, yeah, is beautiful and great to drive, but is a little bit more limited in its cargo and people usability space. This is about as functional and large and utilitarian as you'd want to get and still be a compact crossover. And yet the pricing is still right and the drivability is still right. My next pro focuses around the driving experience. So you get in, start it up, put your foot on the brake, shift it into drive, and it simply departs. This is a standard 6-speed automatic transmission paired up with a 1.6 liter turbocharged engine, And combined with the electric motor, this actually makes quite a bit of power, but is yet quiet and refined and very, very smooth, switching over between hybrid and, I should say, electric driving and gasoline driving. It's kind of crazy getting into something like this after being in the Mazda products, again, bigger, CX-90 and CX-70, but how poorly Mazda integrated their hybrid system and how many herks and jerks you felt driving that car around. And this, I mean, this is butter smooth in every sort of driving situation. And you got to kind of realize at this point that Hyundai's been doing hybrids for a while. I mean, it's well over 10 years that they've been making not only just basic hybrids, but even in their Sonata, for example. I mean, refined hybrid applications. And now you get them with power, and you get them with refinement. It's a really good engine combination. I was really impressed with that in the first drive, and I've been impressed with it here in the real world too. I haven't had it stutter. I haven't had it fall on me. It's got the power. It's got the refinement. It's a great engine and transmission combination. And yeah, it's not quite as efficient as what you're going to get from Toyota, but it's efficient enough that it's not going to even make up the difference in what you'd pay extra to get yourself into a comparable Toyota. Next is the overall ease of driving the Tucson, especially this hybrid. The ease and the comfort, because it's very, very quiet in here. We're going to get up onto the highway here in a few minutes, and you'll just hear how subtle and refined and almost class above it is inside this vehicle. Braking blends very, very nicely. The steering is light in eco mode and then a little bit more artificially heavy in sport mode. Even the steering wheel is thinner than a lot of new steering wheels on the market, and I prefer that. It gives me a nice direct hand-to-wheel feel. I've got a head-up display showing me the speed limit and the speed at which I'm traveling, making it very easy to keep my eyes on the road. If I want to engage my heated or cooled seat, there are buttons for it right down here, easy to get to. If I want to adjust anything in my climate control, which I've actually already done so far this review, make those adjustments very easy. This one is actually surprisingly subtle, and it's not going to apply to most people, I don't think, but every Toyota I drive, for some reason, you have to turn the auto hold functionality back on each time you get the vehicle. And I don't know if there's a way to code it such that it'll stay on, but in this car it stays on. So once I come up to a stop right here, I can take my foot off the brake and it holds until I press back on the accelerator. Here we are getting up to speed, and this is going to be a broken up concrete section of highway. Still listen to, yes, you hear the road noise, but it's really subtle for the type of road this is. And that's one of the benefits of me doing the highway fuel economy test on this car, is I get to experience it on a highway for 100 miles that I'm familiar with, and I can tell you it's quiet in here. And then you've got one of the best active lane keeping functionalities on the market. Once it grabs a lane here, it can practically drive for you with this highway driving assistant. Very, very impressive. You can keep your hands off, theoretically, for quite a bit of time. And driving it around compared to other hybrids in the compact crossover class, it makes so much more power. We're up in the low to mid 200s for horsepower and torque. You're not going to feel like you've got to put your foot to the floor in order to get up to highway speeds or anything like that in the Tucson, and that's pretty darn cool for the hybrid version of a car like this. And my last pro is the Hyundai Warranty. You'll hear me say it for a lot of Hyundai products, but if you're a younger family and you're making the decision to replace your old car, whether it's because you don't fit in it anymore as a family, or it's getting unreliable, or you just want to treat yourself, whatever it is, you probably want something that you can stick with for a while and understand that you're not going to have unforeseen costs. That's what the Hyundai 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty gives you. Think about how much your life is going to change and evolve over the next 10 years or 100,000 miles of driving. Anything goes wrong with the powertrain in here, and you're going to be covered. Now, yes, the bumper-to-bumper is only 5 years or 60,000 miles, but I think about the new Chevy that we bought for my wife a year and a half ago. We're already halfway through the bumper-to-bumper warranty on that car, and she only has 10, almost 11,000 miles on it, but yet we're just coming up to the end because it's going to hit 3 years since date of purchase. And for me, that's a little disconcerting, thinking to myself, okay, I could have any random little electrical gremlin or something go wrong with this car, and it's going to be out of warranty here pretty soon. Whereas if we had bought a Hyundai, then at least would have been able to make it 5 years before I had that situation come up. So I am thoroughly impressed with the new Tucson. Every little tweak that they made for 2025, aside from the seating position, has been a meaningful real-world improvement. And I would honestly take it over the Toyota, definitely the Ford, and even the Honda. The Honda CR-V is my other favorite in this class, and I still like the way the Honda feels more than the Hyundai. If you've been in a Honda product, you know just the crispness of the controls and the tightness of the leather or fake leather that pretty much everybody's using at this point. I like from a raw feel, I prefer the Honda, but for how well everything works in the Hyundai and what it provides me, this is what I'd be going with. But before we wrap up, we've got to put it on the Daily Motor Leaderboard. And we only have 2 vehicles left for DM Leaderboard rankings for 2024. This and the upcoming Rivian R1S. And I know this one is going to be pretty high up there. But some of them I go into the reviews without knowing where the car is going to rank. And some of the reviews I kind of have an idea beforehand. This is one that I thought about beforehand. So if we look at the list right now, leaders are Hyundai Santa Fe, Kia EV9, and Ford F-150. This is going all the way up in second place, right behind its stablemate, the Santa Fe. For me, the Santa Fe, like I said a little bit at the beginning, it's more of an impressive car for not that much more money. And the wow factor was just a little bit more for me for the Hyundai Santa Fe. But if the Rivian R1S doesn't make its way into the top 3, we are going to have Korean for 1, 2, 3 for 2024, and then the Ford F-150 and another Korean, the Hyundai Elantra N. I mean, I know I'm just blowing sunshine up Hyundai's rear end at this point, but look at this. 31st place is where the Hyundai Tucson, the 2024 Tucson was, and look at how much it's gone up. That's kind of crazy that just mid-cycle refresh can make that much more. I'm gonna go back and look at my thoughts real quick, lasting thoughts on the 24 Tucson. And mind you, that was not the hybrid. All right, so already looking at the interior of the 2024 model, again, the controls were more annoying. The shifter took up more space. The steering wheel didn't work quite as well. It had more clickers instead of these rollers. And the interior, to me, wasn't quite as attractive. Okay.
Kind of mixed driving and city.
And it didn't have nearly as much interior storage space.
Other than the throttle.
So it was pretty early on in the rankings. We only had 6 other vehicles that we were ranking it against. And then looking at the rest of the rankings, a lot of cars just filed in above it. So where are we here? Tucson. Yeah, I mean, you had things like the E-Class, the MDX, the Camry, the CX-90. Just a lot of cars that were more impressive. But all of the changes that they made for 2025, and then also driving the hybrid, it just makes for a much better car altogether. So, hey, call me biased if you want. Could be true. But if I were buying a new car today, here in the end of 2024, there's a good chance it would be this one right here in front of us. So thank you all so much for watching. If you do want to see more on the Tucson, check the link below. We've got dedicated reviews of the upgraded Bose sound system, fuel economy test, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.